a grandfather who was sitting in the park with his two grandchildren, both twins. Now the twins loved this time with their grandfather because this was the time when they would really bond with them. And their grandfather would play with them and wear them out until they got tired, and then kind of wake them up again and play with them a little bit more. Now this particular day, at the end of the playing, the grandfather sat down and he put each twin, one on each lap. Now when the grandfather did this, the twins knew that grandfather was about to teach them a lesson. So the grandfather, as he sat the two children on his lap, he begins to tell them the story of the two wolves. He said that each individual person has two wolves inside them. One is evil, and it's driven by fear. Things like worry, doubt, uncertainty. And there was another wolf that was made of love, that was driven by faith and things like joy, happiness, contentment. And as the two twins began to listen to this story as the grandfather told it, their curiosity began to get the best of them. And they asked the grandfather, "My grandfather, which wolf wins?" And the grandfather would tell them, "The wolf that wins is the one that you feed." So everyone has a choice. You can either feed that evil, that fear, that false evidence appearing real. And I'll spend just a little bit of time taking us back to a time where fear gave a chance to seek in. How many people ever learn how to ride a bike? I'm sure we probably all learned how to ride a bike. And we've taught by our mother or our father. Perhaps it was a sibling. And as they grabbed the back of the bike and we began to pedal our hearts out, knowing that they're behind us every step of the way, until that one moment when we look behind us and they're no longer there. This is when fear sets in. It takes us away from our best. Takes us away from what we were meant to be. There was a president, Abraham Lincoln, who once stated, and I'm sure he was probably referencing Mark 3:25, when he said, "A house divided cannot stand." A house divided cannot stand. Good and evil cannot stand in the same spot. Without that house being divided, and soon it will fall due to fear. Now, fear is something that we're taught. Imagine, if you will, two sets of mothers, two sets of children, both playing outside as their mother hangs the laundry. Scenario number one, the first mother, as she's hanging the laundry, sees a snake. And as she sees the snake, she jumps, startled by fear. But what happens to that child? That child begins to react to the same fear. So fear can be, in a sense, learned. Now let's take scenario number two. The second mother, same scenario, hanging clothes while the child is playing next to her. Same scenario, she sees the snake. But this mother, instead of reacting to fear, bends down and picks up the snake and begins to rub it. And the child sees the same scenario and does not fear that snake, but instead embraces it. That fear was not taught, but encouraged. To feel the fear and do it anyway, which moves me to the second stanza. Faith. As Jared has told us, it's the foundation of freedom. It releases us from our fears. How can a man believe in something that he doesn't see, yet continues to have faith that that thing will come to pass? By believing in a better now, by believing in a better future, by believing that just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. I'm sure we're all probably familiar with Michelangelo. Created the Statue of David, arguably one of the best creations in the art world. Michelangelo was once asked by a person how he created such a colossal statue, to which he answered, it already existed in a piece of marble. I simply chipped away at the pieces that didn't belong. And that's what we must begin to do. As we've gone through our life, we've inherited certain fears. We've inherited certain doubts. We've inherited certain worries. But remember, a house divided cannot stand. So we must begin to, as Michelangelo did, begin to chip away at the pieces that don't belong. To get to the core, to get to the center of our already perfect being. Do not allow your house, ladies and gentlemen, friends, fellow Toastmasters, do not allow your house to be divided. I ask that you choose